Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, which is on carbon literacy, empowering your organisation for net zero. I'm Luke from the Food and Drink Federation, and we're very glad to be hosting this webinar today. So first of all, thank you to everyone for coming. We hope that you found the content useful, and thank you to our professional affiliate members, Ecosurety, as well as to the Carbon Literacy Project, who will be sharing their insights with you in today's session. There will be a Q&A at the end, so please put any questions that you have into the Q&A tab on the panel, and we'll do our best to go through as many as we can at the end of the webinar. And following the webinar, we'll be sending you an aftercare email in the next couple of working days, and this will contain a recording of the webinar, a copy of the slides, as well as the contact details of today's presenters. So without any further ado, I'll let our presenters introduce themselves, starting with Miriam from the Carbon Literacy Project.
Thanks, Luke, and thank you for inviting us here today. So my name's Miriam. I am a project advocate at the Carbon Literacy Project, and the Carbon Literacy Project is a climate education charity. I'll pass on to Christiane.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Christiane. I am also part of the advocacy team at the Carbon Literacy Project, and speaking to all organizations from all over the world, really, to support them on their journey with carbon literacy. Over to Steph.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. Thanks to the FDF team for hosting us today. I'm Steph Fusti. I'm the head of marketing and sustainability and also carbon literacy trainer at Ecosurety. Ecosurety is a packaging data specialist on a mission to rid the world of unnecessary packaging. We use the power of data and our team expertise to help brands and retailers to comply with packaging EPR and also to make better packaging decisions. Ben, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Steph. Excited to be here too. So I also work for Ecosurety as a marketing project specialist, but a key part of my role is to manage our carbon literacy training program, and I'm also a trainer with Steph.
Amazing. So what are we going to cover today during this introduction to carbon literacy in effect? First, I'm going to cover the common carbon pain points that businesses face when they start looking at carbon emissions. Then we are going to talk about what is carbon literacy with Miriam. Then Ben will talk to you through what and how carbon literacy can benefit your business and yourself. And then collectively, we are going to help you identify how you can engage your team and supply chain with net zero. And as Luke said earlier, there will be a Q&A section at the end when you can ask any question you have to Carbon Literacy Project or to Ecosurety about carbon literacy and how you could engage with that. So don't hesitate to, as you listen to us talking, to put your questions in the Q&A section at the top of your screen so that we can try to address them at the end of this session. So, okay, let's carry on with the agenda. So, first of all, what are the common carbon pain points in your business? I don't know if you've already identified them, but before we dive into the details of it, I'm going to ask you to pick up your phone because we are going to do a quick poll. So to understand you better, we want you to do a quick poll. Sorry, let me just share my correct screen. And tell us what is your job function. So if you haven't used Menti before, you just need to scan the QR code on the right of this screen, which will bring you directly to this question, what is your job function? If the QR code doesn't work, you can also go on menti.com and enter the code that you can see on your screen. So I can see 7 people already responding. Let's see if we have more people joining. Okay, so at the moment, it's between packaging and compliance. A bit of sustainability. Okay. Waiting a few seconds to have more response. it's nice to see that it's not only one job function, but actually it's different departments who are actually here on the call. So it's great to see that carbon literacy and carbon emission is not only interesting for sustainability team, but I can see procurement team, packaging team, compliance team looking at it as well. So it carries on. Okay, so yeah, the maximum at the moment is more around compliance, but yeah, a nice spread of job function represented today. Perfect. It's music to my ears because yeah, as we will see later down the line, I don't want to say everything all at once now, but carbon literacy is not only for sustainability people, it's really for everyone in businesses. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation now. Okay. So let's talk about the main carbon pain points now. So what we are going to cover now is like what we've heard, what I've heard like firsthand, but what I've experienced as well, like talking to businesses about carbon literacy when we deliver the course with Ben at Ecosurety. One of the main common pain points that businesses face is what's the urgency? Like, how does it relate to me? There are so many exposure to anxious content in the mainstream media around climate change, net zero, climate emergency, that actually it doesn't mean anything anymore for lots of people outside of like sustainability teams. And I guess the constant exposure to this news make us lose track of the why of the climate crisis and how like why is it urgent, like how urgent it is and how does it, why shall I do something about it? So I think that's a pain point which is really shared widely in businesses, but not only, also in personal lives. Second pain point that we notice a lot is jargon. So we could assume that because we hear about net zero, carbon neutrality, offsetting, scope 1, 2, and 3, and so on, we hear that more and more. So we could easily assume that everybody understands what it is and everybody has the same understanding of it. But from first-hand experience, when we deliver carbon literacy training, it's definitely not the same level of knowledge across the board. And I guess I would ask you the question to you and your team, are you all on the same page internally about what it means for you and for your organization? So often there is a gap. We think we know, but we don't really know, or we assume. Another pain point often noticed as well is, but where is the carbon actually? We talk about carbon, CO2 emissions and so on, but like, do you really understand the big picture? Do you know where most of your company's carbon footprint is focused on? Like what contributes the most to your carbon footprint? Do you understand the priority areas in terms of CO2 emissions for your business? Often it's not really well known across the business. And then when we start talking about implementing a net zero plan or a carbon emission reduction plan, often it can feel daunting, like where to start. The task is so huge and so quite quickly we realize that we can't do it on our own. So how to bridge the gap between the knowledge and the understanding of your carbon footprint and doing a proper action, like not only within the team who is in charge of net zero, but across the company and beyond. It can be quite difficult. So that's just a flavor of what we've noticed in terms of what businesses face in terms of pain point. Another one is about engaging internally. So if you work in sustainability, it's probably like a quite small team, usually in businesses, and like the sustainability team can't do it all. As I said earlier, they can't be just make the company being net zero on their own. They need to engage with the board, with other departments, to make sure that we have like everybody contributes toward the same goal of the net zero plan. But net zero is not always other teams' priorities, so that can be quite difficult. Yes, in principle, we are really keen to move on to net zero, but have to have other more urgent stuff to do in my finance team, procurement team, or packaging team, and so on. So that can be a challenge. But not only internally, externally can be an issue. So if in this room you've done your carbon footprint for your company, it's very likely that the emissions related to your supply chain are a big hotspot in your carbon footprint, which means then that to reduce your CO2 emissions from your supply chain, you will need to engage with your suppliers. But supply chain management is not an easy task. It's already very complex without adding the net zero conversation in the mix. So how do you make them care about your carbon reduction targets? That's a challenge we commonly see. Then communication. So it's one thing to know about climate change, to understand what causes it and like what needs to be done. But then it can be difficult. We know it can be a divisive topic, especially in this world, like lately with everything going on. So yeah, it can be easy to try to avoid the topic in a workplace rather than like actively communicating about it, because you don't want to be the fun sponge or even being like labeled tree hugger or the keen and green in your organization. So yeah, communicating with confidence and be proactive about this conversation can be a challenge. And finally, another very important cog in a machine in terms of behavior change and decarbonizing your business is your consumers. So there is often from like marketing and communication teams some fear of backlash, either reluctancy to talk about everything regarding to sustainability, like that's what we call greenwashing, or on the opposite side, marketing or communication teams not really trained on this sustainability topic and facing the risk of doing some greenwashing and like overstating their green credential and so on. So yeah, there are a number of consideration or a number of challenges that businesses face when we talk about carbon, which it would be interesting to see if that's something you faced in your organization. And so I'm going to ask now to take your phone again, because we are going to do another poll to rate your understanding and confidence around climate change and carbon literacy. Just bear with me a second as I pull out the right screen. Okay, so if you can scan this new QR code, it will ask you 3 questions, and we are going to see the results live on the screen. The first question, so you need to rate 3 affirmation from low, which is 1, to high, which is 5, in terms of your understanding of the science behind climate change, your understanding of action you can take to address climate change, and your confidence in talking about climate change at home, with friends, and at work. Because that's really 3 critical points. It's not only good to understand and to know the science behind climate change. It's like, okay, so what? How do you spring from awareness to action? Okay, so we have like 13 people who joined the Menti. We have 12 out of 13. I don't know if we leave a couple of seconds for the last one to join. Okay, let's stop now. So it's quite good actually, between 1 and 5. The highest being in terms of Thank you for the last one to reply. The confidence in talking about climate change is 3.8 out of 5. That's quite good already. So I assume that in this room, there are a lot of people very knowledgeable about climate change, which is great to hear. And same in terms of understanding of actions, 3.8, that's quite good. Usually when we run this survey with our cohort of trainees for carbon literacy training, we can start quite low in terms of these 3 questions. The lowest point is the science behind climate change. So yeah, I think that's something that we are going to cover in terms of what carbon literacy can support you with. But yeah, it's great to see that it's quite high up with an opportunity to improve. So thank you for sharing. It's really interesting for you to understand how we are on that one. So now I'm gonna hand over to Miriam, who's gonna talk us through what is actually carbon literacy.
Thanks, Steph, and yeah, thank you for covering those common pain points that organisations face. So yeah, as Steph has mentioned, I'm just going to go over carbon literacy a little bit, its importance for organisations and training structure and our accreditations. So carbon literacy is a day's worth of climate learning. It empowers individuals to take meaningful action against climate change, and it was recognised at the UN at the COP 2021 in Paris, and it's the largest low carbon culture change project of its kind. Next slide, please, Steph. So these are some of the reasons why organisations may choose to engage in carbon literacy training. So it empowers employees with skills and motivation to make carbon conscious decisions, better navigate risk and regulatory compliance, and improve supply chain management. Increases efficiency and save money through actions which identify carbon hotspots, address scope 3 emissions and minimise waste. Drives innovation by encouraging adoption of next generation processes and technologies, and supports client and customer engagement, and positions businesses ahead of evolving environmental regulatory requirements, and it offers a globally recognised quantifiable commitment to carbon reduction. Next slide, please. So here you can see a slide of carbon literacy in numbers, where we're now at, I know we're more than 157,000, constantly ticking along at that number, and it's grown really quickly, where we celebrated 100,000 learners in the summer of 2024. So we're growing really quickly on an aim to get to 1 million by 2030. We also recently reached another milestone. As you can see, our certified training professionals and our courses designed are both at just over 1,000, and we celebrated both of those just a couple of weeks ago, both around the same time. And also you can see that we're delivering across 48 nations. So this is every continent, including Antarctica, where the British Antarctic Survey delivered their pilot course there. Next slide, please. Thank you. So how does training work? So it's 1 day's worth of learning, and this can be split into smaller chunks. So whether you decide to do 2 half days, 4 quarter days, some people have even split it over multiple kind of lunch and learn sessions. And it can also be mixed with a bit of e-learning and homework elements. At least 50% of it needs to be live, and what we mean by that is delivered face-to-face or delivered on kind of like an online meeting, but at least 50% needs to be delivered face-to-face to give that room for kind of open discussion. So training is most effective when training is most effective when delivered with by sector-specific knowledge, so whether that's your own staff or external trainers. Ready-to-made carbon literacy courses are available across a wide range of sectors, and you can develop original carbon literacy courses as well to be tailored more towards your audience, and all learners devise 2 actions to reduce their carbon footprint. So I'll go into a little bit more detail about some of these just now. So next slide, please. So what is in the course? So it's made up of different parts. So the knowledge, so the science and impacts of climate change. So, responses and solutions to that, and the importance of communicating positivity. The values kind of covers individual action is important, but it's also important that we all work together to make a world a better place, and a fair and equitable transition is essential. So as I've mentioned a little bit already about the learning method, it's that 7 to 8 hours to kind of make up a day's worth of learning. Discussion needs to run throughout. Someone in the sector with sector expertise should be leading it, and it needs to be relevant and include local examples. And then taking action. So towards the end of the session, you talk about taking action, and you pledge to take an individual and a group action forward. So it needs to be kind of relevant to the role of the individual, where they are in their workplace, where they kind of got the most influence. And these actions need to be new, significant, and reducing carbon emissions. Next slide, please. So yeah, as I mentioned, the Carbon Literacy Project does have some different materials, and on the next slide now I'm just going to show you a couple that are kind of most relevant to hopefully people in the call today. So our food and hospitality materials provide pre-accredited training materials strategically crafted to tackle the distinctive challenge and opportunities found in hospitality and food services. These materials offer practical guidance on reducing carbon emissions across diverse settings. Later on in the webinar, I'll go through what's in the food and hospitality materials in a little bit more detail. Our SME course kit, however, is a comprehensive course designed to equip small and medium-sized enterprises with the knowledge and tools needed to navigate the complex landscape of climate change, and it covers modules such as climate change impacts, carbon footprints, policy positions, and actionable strategies. And also our community sector there, so community organisations such as charities, not-for-profit, social enterprises, they all mobilise around shared geography and interests and concerns, and the community sector supports these groups in becoming carbon literate, helping them understand and reduce their carbon footprints. Next slide, please. So one of the key parts of carbon literacy training is that evidence form that you complete at the end with your actions in it. And that is what you, at the end of the day's worth of learning, you complete that, and then you'll get a certificate, which means you are now carbon literate once you've kind of done all of that. So taking action is the most important part of the training. Everyone plays a part in the transition to a low carbon society. There are loads of ways that you can reduce your carbon emissions, and the actions pledge are the key piece of carbon literacy training. So by committing to these two actions, you're one step closer to reducing your carbon footprint. And yeah, as I mentioned, these are essential in order for you to receive your carbon literacy certificate. Next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, so we don't just accredit individual learners, we also accredit organisations. So our carbon literate organisation is our 4-level pathway, and this recognises an organisation's significant dedication to carbon literacy. So for example, by promoting a low carbon culture and engaging positively with its audiences and community around them. Next slide, please, Steph. And also we accredit trainers. So our trainer certification scheme enables carbon literacy trainers to build credibility and visibility through these 3 levels. And each level is designed to recognise the trainer's different expertise. So as you slowly go up the level, you need to prove that you've delivered, X amount of carbon literacy training sessions, and so on. Next slide, please, Steph. So just to kind of sum up, what we offer is we work with organisations, sectors, communities and individuals to promote and coordinate the cascade of carbon literacy, so locally, nationally and globally. We've got ready-made materials and courses and toolkits, so loads of stuff to help organisations across a wide range of sectors. And you can also develop your own carbon literacy course as well to suit your audience. So at the Carbon Literacy Project, we don't directly deliver training, but we can put you in contact with the most suitable routes for your needs. So for example, Ecosurety help with the packaging sector and have their own course there. And training can be delivered internally by your staff, or it can also be delivered externally by training partners. And then finally, we accredit those individuals, those groups and those organisations as carbon literate. Yeah, thank you so much. I'll pass back to Ben.
Thank you, Miriam. That's great. So hopefully you've got a good understanding of the common carbon pain points and what's involved with carbon literacy. I just want to quickly cover how will carbon literacy benefit you? And this is really zooming into the individual who's doing the training. We've looked at the benefits to the organisation that's been touched upon, but what's it actually like to go through the training as a person? So I think one of the most fundamental benefits is you will understand the history and the science of climate change. Obviously, this is integral to being carbon literate. We can't get away from that. And it's a big topic, and we don't intend everyone who does the training to go away being a climate scientist. But what we do in the training, which I think is really engaging and works very well, is we tell the story, we build a narrative by going through the scientific evidence, and we bring all these charts to life, which tell a story, you know, this link between increasing greenhouse gas with increasing temperatures and energy usage and what that energy usage is. Yeah, it really tells a story, and we get a lot of light bulb moments there, which brings us nicely on to the next point, which is it really helps people to understand the impact of climate change too, because once you've got the basis of the science, you can look at what's that actually causing. And we always get light bulb moments in the training. In this section, the penny really drops when we've been through these two things, and the most common thing we hear is, I had no idea just how bad it was. People really start to understand the scale and the speed of climate change and the impacts it's having. And it's not just impacts on the other side of the world in the global south or in the far distant future for future generations. It's the changes are happening here and now. Wherever you are, they're having an impact. Even in England, this is Tenbury Wells in that little picture, which is the first UK town to become uninsurable due to repeated flooding, which has definitely got worse due to the impacts of climate change. So this resonates very well for people in the training. What people really value, we hear again and again in our feedback, is that the training has, in a wonderful way, creates this safe space to explore these topics with your peers. And your peers may be your colleagues if you're doing this as a team. You may have your director, your CEO in the room, all the way down to your production staff. It could even be with your competitors if you're on an open course. We often have competitors in the same room, which actually works very, very well. They never come together to talk about this stuff and share knowledge and concerns and insights. But creating this safe space, which is non-judgmental, there's no silly questions, all views are respected. It's a wonderful thing, and it's very hard to find that to discuss this topic, and that's of huge value to people. I know as a trainer, me and Steph always learn a huge amount from these discussions, you know, thanks to this safe space, and we always let those discussions sort of range, which is great. And I think a result of all of this, understanding the history, understanding the impact, having this safe space to explore the topic, it really builds confidence. And when people build confidence, they're more confident to communicate about it. And this is important. I mean, this is communicating within your business, especially if you have a carbon literate organization, you know that all your colleagues are carbon literate too. Those discussions become much easier. You can really bring the topic up. It can start to appear on agendas and meetings far more. And it can also mean communicating about it to your customers as well. You can be a lot more confident with that. Next slide, please, Steph. So a key benefit is obviously understanding the industry and global targets, which are already there to tackle climate change. So there are big global targets to tackle this. The UK has a target, and industries have targets too. There's some targets within the packaging industry. And this is really important to like orientate your organization. Are you aware of these targets? Are you following them? Should you follow them? Can you be more ambitious? Some companies are. That's really important. That's a key part of the training, is just to show people what's already in place, and, you know, can you do that or can you do better? So clearly, when you've been through the training, you should have the knowledge and skills to reduce carbon footprints. One thing we always say right at the start of our training, because it's to do with packaging, is you will not learn what to switch your packaging to be lower carbon. We can't do that. That's way beyond the scope of the training. Obviously, that requires really specific analysis and life cycle assessments, etc. But what we can do is give you the confidence to know where carbon is. You start to think carbon, everything has a carbon footprint. You can start to sniff out, where can that carbon be? What next steps do I need to do to really identify it, and how can we reduce it? So it definitely provides a step change in that knowledge, which is really, really important. Okay, so that brings us on to the next point, which is empowering people to act. I think this is really important, especially with carbon literacy. If you're sent on a carbon literacy training course, you're kind of in a way being given permission by your organization to like learn about this topic and act on it. You have to make a pledge at the end of this training. You know, you're really being empowered and given permission to do something about this. And that's really amplified when you're a carbon literate organization. You're empowering your workforce literally to be thinking carbon and acting on carbon. Yeah, which is a wonderful thing. And so we have the last point, which is committing to pledges. So Miriam mentioned these 2 pledges you need to make. And we see some incredible pledges coming through thanks to the training. So we've trained directors at some of the biggest global food brands, and they have some like immense pledges that come through straight off the back of the training of some big changes they want to make happen straight away, and they have the power to do that, which is fantastic. We get brilliant pledges from people, you know, like production staff or admin staff even. They have some brilliant ideas too, and there may be small things they can influence. Quite often we see pledges where they want to influence the leadership team or the board, which is wonderful. And it can even be just to say, look, we should be doing carbon literacy within the company. We should all be carbon literate. That's quite a common pledge. So yeah, I think committing to those pledges is a wonderful benefit. It doesn't end on the day of training. Carbon literacy definitely gets carried through into these tangible actions afterwards. Okay, that's a really quick whiz through the benefits. There are many more. We could be here all day talking about those, I think. But let's take a quick look at how can you get involved. So if this is resonating and you think this sounds great, let's have a look at how we can get involved. So I'll talk quickly about the course that Ecosurety offers, and then I'll pass over to Miriam, I think, to talk about the food sector course. So at Ecosurety, we're a packaging data specialist. So we run tailored training, carbon literacy training for the packaging sector. So this is accredited by the Carbon Literacy Project. We've been running this for a couple of years now. Our whole company's trained on it. We've trained, oh blimey, lots and lots of companies. Lots of our members have done this training, and we're really pleased to say that it's rated 5 out of 5 by our members for content and delivery. And we really cover, alongside all the sort of generic content of the course we have to cover, we also cover the carbon impact of packaging, drivers of packaging decisions, action being taken through the industry, and some low carbon packaging innovations. So we're definitely not all doom and gloom and this is all terrible. We definitely want to empower people to say, look, there's some fantastic stuff going on out there. And we run this with 2 options. You can do it in person over a day in Bristol in our lovely office, you can see there. And we also offer it online over 2 half days, which actually works very well and enables people to do the training who wouldn't necessarily have the time or funds to be able to travel to us. And of course, we can do a bespoke option just for your organisation. We can visit you and run a course just for your team. Yeah, so that's a good roundup of a packaging sector. If we look next at the food sector, and I'll hand over to Miriam.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah, so as Ben has mentioned there, we at the Carbon Literacy Project, there's organisations like Ecosurety who deliver training internally to their own staff and also externally to their supply chain and other organisations. If you want to kind of work and develop your own course for your own organisation, our food sector materials can help with that. So yeah, the food sector materials can be accessed in order to support you to create accredited carbon literacy training. There are lots of different resources that make up this, you know, presentation slides. They're split over 4 modules. There's a scripts for trainers essentially to kind of deliver the material. You can use these materials to deliver online, face-to-face, a mixture of both. 1 whole day, multiple days, so whatever really works best for you and your organization, depending on kind of, you know, how your organization works, what your organization is. So it can be delivered, yeah, as I mentioned, in-house by maybe your sustainability team, your learning and development team, you know, other teams also, but you can also work with kind of carbon literacy trainers or people who maybe already have an existing course, such as Ecosurety and their kind of like packaging one. So by using the pre-approved materials, you have the industry knowledge, and you can add in that kind of sector-specific stuff to make the course really bespoke to you. Next slide, please. So just to kind of cover those 4 modules of what is in the kind of the food sector materials, if you were to kind of access them to help you create your own course. So as we've discussed, you know, a lot of the kind of carbon standard of the carbon literacy is that kind of sciencey part, the greenhouse gases, what is climate change. So that module 1 kind of focuses on that initially and looks at the broader sustainability picture of the food system using planetary boundary models, climate change impacts and solutions alongside other areas. Module 2 includes kind of a short section on personal carbon footprints to kind of link back a little bit to that individual action. So it allows employees to understand and make sustainable choices, and also kind of relates to healthy diets. Module 3 looks at agricultural practices. So combined land use and farm stage emissions account for kind of 80% of the footprint of most foods. And we kind of like explore that in module 3, among other things as well. And module 4 kind of looks at key business themes, so science-based targets, emissions scopes, so scope 1, 2, and 3, and it gives employees the opportunity to select and explore ideas around the organization's carbon hotspot. So essentially you kind of got a lot of information and materials there to really help you create a course that's really bespoke to your organization. So we kind of give you the kind of top level stuff, and you can fill in that with your own kind of sector expertise and where you might fit in that kind of food and drink or hospitality part of the process. So yeah, I will pass back to Steph, I believe.
It works better if I put my mic on. So thank you, Marianne, for the whistle-stop tour of what kind of carbon literacy training and assets are available for businesses and individuals out there. And now is the time for questions. So I don't know if you did have the chance to put your questions. Now is the time. You have the Q&A at the top. I think we have a couple. Christian, do you want to start covering them? And please keep the, we still have some time. So yeah, if you see any questions, if you have any question you haven't put yet in the chat, please, not in the chat, in the Q&A section, now is the time.
So a question here for you, Steph and Ben, is, and what will we learn that's specifically relevant to the packaging producers? And will it tell us what materials to switch, for example, and so on?
Yes, thank you, Christian. Really good question. I think Ben touched upon that a little bit in his presentation. You won't have a checklist of everything that you need to change in your packaging to make it more sustainable or to reduce the carbon footprint, because yeah, every organization, every industry, every packaging type is different. So there is, we don't dive into the specific of that in the carbon literacy training. But there is, like I would say, 30% of our course, which is really focused on the packaging industry, what's going on, signpost you into like to a direction to like look for more information, give you the basic knowledge of like how the packaging sector has an impact on the carbon footprint of your organization or like in industries and so on. So yeah, it gives you the big picture and also signposts you into like useful direction to look for more information or to start asking the right question within your organization or within your industry. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Ben, that I would have not covered.
Yeah, I think that largely covers it off. I know one bit we do look at is the current packaging policy and how that relates to carbon or doesn't, and where that perhaps could shift to, and also just an overview of different packaging types and their general carbon footprint. You know, for example, if you look at different supermarket shelves, where's the carbon in all that packaging, which is always interesting. But yeah, there's lots there we cover,
including packaging innovation as well. Like we cover like what are the latest packaging innovation going in the right direction in terms of carbon footprint. So yeah, a wide range of topic we cover, but yeah, not a silver bullet solution, but yeah, lots of useful information, hopefully to help you and guide you in your packaging strategy.
And perhaps a question for Miriam, can our whole company do the food course, or should it only be employees with food-related roles? And maybe also drawing on that with the packaging afterwards, perhaps.
Yeah, so I think it depends kind of what your organization is. So I guess like if your organization at its core is kind of a food business, then the food materials are really suitable for you. But again, because you can kind of adapt and change these materials, you can make them really bespoke and specific to your business. So you can, tailor them to meet your business needs. So if your business focuses on a tiny part of the food process, if for example maybe more in farming or more in manufacturing or packaging later down the line as well, you can really tailor your course to meet that. And I would definitely say it's CarbonLiteracy is for everyone in the organization. We mentioned at the kind of very beginning that it's not just that kind of for sustainability leads, and the beauty about CarbonLiteracy is that once everybody kind of gets trained, you've got that open discussion throughout the organization. There's that confidence for people to kind of talk and to make changes throughout all areas of the organization. So yeah, CarbonLiteracy training, the food sector ones can be for everyone, but the beauty is you can tailor it and make it as bespoke as you need for your organization essentially.
Great, thank you. And maybe also for the packaging one, how do you feel how that sits within the whole organization? What do you recommend there, Steph, for Ben?
Yeah, I can take that one. So it's an interesting one because often people will come from one of our customers, they'll come and do our packaging training, they'll love it and they'll want to roll it out to their whole team. But often the packaging team is quite small within the company, which is when we direct them to CarbonLiteracy projects. So often we work with a lot of food and drink producers. They'll then look at the food training to train the majority of their company, but the packaging course is really of value to their packaging team, obviously. So yeah, it is an interesting one. So we tend to work with the smaller teams, but I think a big food businesses, I imagine that food training will impact far more employees within a business.
Absolutely, yeah. So I can also add from the experience we have talking with organizations. So if you have something that's quite niche, like the packaging, absolutely great to get those people on board within a larger organization. And then usually if you want to roll it out to larger scale, it's more of an organizational course, and to just really have that relevance there for people, isn't it? Great, thank you. And then one question probably that people always think about and ask, and they will have to if you talk about budgets, how much does the training cost? Again, specific maybe to the packaging course, maybe for you, staff, perhaps, and then also after maybe Miriam about if people want to look at creating their own course maybe for their organization. So over to you, Steph.
Yeah. Okay, so the cost for the full day of training is £200 per person, whether it's in person in the office, which is a bonus because you have like a free coffee and food and a lovely vegetarian lunch included. So I would definitely advocate for the in-person training. But yeah, it's £200 per person, whether it's online or in person. Yeah, and that covers the cost of delivering the training, the food if you're in person, but also the cost of the certificate, because yeah, to pledge and become carbon literate, you need to fill a pledge certificate, which has a cost associated with it that Ecosurety is paying for. So yeah, I would definitely say it's good value for money.
Yeah, fab. Thank you, Steph. Just to add on that, so yeah, as I mentioned earlier, so the CarbonLiteracy project doesn't deliver training. We essentially help you create your own course or put you in contact with people like Ecosurety or other kind of training partners who deliver their course. So essentially, we can help you create your own course, and there is a cost to that, and that's kind of done on a bit of a sliding scale based on an organization's turnover. And also, as Steph mentioned, there's also a fee for individuals to be certified. So that's again us to kind of check those evidence form and those pledges and give each individual learner their certificate. And there's a cost for that per learner. And that again is done on a kind of sliding scale for turnover. So yeah, it depends. There's lots of different trainers out there that you can work with as well. So, if the food resources or the packaging resources aren't the ones that you want, you can get in contact with kind of us at the CarbonLiteracy project, and we can kind of put you in contact with the right people, the right training providers, or show you some of the other materials. So some of our materials are free to kind of access, some of them aren't. It depends on kind of the way that they've been funded, for example. So yeah, we can definitely have that conversation about how much things cost to access CarbonLiteracy training.
Fantastic. And also good to know again when people are starting the journey and getting their people and their staff trained on carbon literacy, what's involved to become a carbon literate organization. That's maybe again for both of you, Miriam, maybe a bit more the broader outline, but also know that Ecosurety is a carbon literate organization. So good to hear from your experience.
Yeah, so I can start, I guess, maybe more with the kind of like admin side of things. So yeah, as I mentioned, there's kind of 4 levels: bronze, silver, gold, platinum. And a big part of that is kind of percentage of staff trained. So to get to kind of platinum, you have to show roughly kind of 70% of your staff has been trained, and that changes kind of depending on how large your organization is. But alongside that, there's loads of other kind of criteria that needs to be met along the way. So, you know, working with the Carbon Literacy Project to kind of spread the word, working with kind of your supply chain to deliver training, or community groups to help to kind of deliver training. So there's loads of different criteria to be met to get towards those kind of higher levels of it. But a really good part of it is that it kind of keeps you on track, tracking learners kind of pledges and stuff like that, and keeps you on track and gives you that badge to kind of show what you're doing with the Carbon Literacy Project. And as Christian mentioned, Ecosurety are a CLO and working towards that kind of top level. So I don't know if Ben or Steph, you want to just jump in and talk a little bit about your own journey?
Yeah, I guess I should, Steph. I look after the CLO application, so it should be me, really. Yeah, we are a CLO. We're CLO Gold. We're very, very proud of it, and we're working towards platinum at the moment. And everything Miriam said, it's I was going to say forced us to, but it doesn't feel like we're forced to, but it's encouraged us to, yeah, really keep on track of our learners. And we're a growing company, so that has been a challenge to make sure we maintain this high percentage, which we've done, which is great. But it's also helped us to really step up and be advocates for the Carbon Literacy Project. We've spoken at many events about carbon literacy, including this webinar now, when you may not have a motivation to do that if you weren't aiming to be a CLO. That's a fantastic thing to do, and we've made lots of connections doing that. And we've had to do lots of other actions which have been brilliant, like completing a cost-benefit analysis of carbon literacy on our business. We're also collaborating with another organisation to deliver carbon literacy. We're in the process of organising that now, which is looking super promising and exciting for the future. So yeah, I'd say it definitely makes you up your game, and the badge is definitely a badge of honour that people recognise and say, yeah, they're carbon literate, and like it's embedded in their company. That's a powerful thing to communicate. So for us, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, if I can just add something to it, of the why, like why Ecosurety decided to be involved with carbon literacy and become a CLO, it really helps with our net zero plan. I guess it goes back to the title of this session today. Like we committed to be net zero, and we were like, okay, how do we do that? And embedding this culture of understanding what carbon is within our employee base was like the first step and the most important step in making sure that like it actually happens, like everybody can speak the same language. So yes, we are a CLO, and why we did it is like to accelerate our progress in reducing our carbon emissions. So yeah, that's definitely the main reason why we do it, and that's also why we try to step up and increase the level, like from gold to platinum, to accelerate our action towards net zero, really.
Fantastic, thank you. And yeah, it's just a really nice framework. I always let organizations know as well. If you do already the training, it'd be silly not to go down the pathway of CLO organization. It's all there anyway on our website as well, so you to have a look at to understand what it's all about. It just helps to guide you through to get the best out of the training, isn't it? And to reach as well with influence you can have them. Great. So something else perhaps too. I mean, again, that's probably what is different from carbon literacy training, maybe from other training as well. How do you keep momentum after the training is completed? So I think that may be a good, again, for you at Ecosurety perhaps to get started, and if Miriam's got anything to add afterwards as well from our end. Steph, over to you because you're unmuted.
Okay, like we could both answer it, and actually maybe Ben would be better than me to do that. But we do regular surveys within our staff to say, Okay, so basically we have kept a record of all the pledges that our team and our members have done for carbon literacy training. And like once a year, we go back and say, you've said that you wanted to do this individual pledge and this group pledge within your organization. Can you tell us your progress? Like, yeah, like share openly where you're at in terms of progress. So I guess there are different situations where people are like, oh, thank you for the reminder. I really need to like up my game and do something about it. But then it's also an opportunity for people who've progressed to say, yes, I've done it and I'm happy to shout about it. I've made this and this process improvement and so on. So yeah, one pledge that we see quite regularly is people pledging to become carbon literate carbon literacy trainer and to train their team internally and so on. So yeah, it's really nice to then see them going in a like train the trainer course and like start to deliver the course within their organization and so on. So yeah, I think that's the beauty really of the process is like this pledge that you have to do. Then because we have access to it, we can, I guess, hold them into accounts and check that, yeah, they are making progress. And as Ben mentioned, it has helped us to do our cost benefit analysis, to do this survey, to really realize, okay, we've trained that many people, they pledged to do X, and that's the result so far, and measure this progress regularly.
Anything to add, Ben, at all? You want to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think everything that Steph said, really. I think it's a brilliant way of sifting up ideas within your organization and then just providing that support to people to make them happen, really. It is never to hold a stick to people and say, well, haven't you done this thing you said you're going to do? It's always, how can we help you? Like, what do you need to make it happen? Like, we're here to support you. The company's behind you. What can we do? And we've seen some amazing stuff come up in Ecosurety anyway. We've developed new products, which our members will use because of this to help them track carbon in packaging, which all came from a carbon literacy pledge. Yeah, so amazing things can happen, and it becomes much easier to support your team when you're a carbon literate organisation, I think, because everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, and all teams and departments can provide some amazing idea because they come all from a different perspective. So the data team came up with a great idea to save carbon emissions in terms of reducing the number of time we how do we say, we sync the data and so on, like to reduce the carbon emission from servers, this kind of stuff, down to like the facilities team looking at like how we can provide like vegetarian food instead of like being meat-free business for company organized meal and so on. So yeah, from data to facility to finance, like everybody come with a different lens looking at carbon, and they come with lovely pledges, really impactful, that the sustainability team couldn't come up with because they don't have the knowledge of all individual departments. So yeah, that's also why this is really relevant to all type of department within an organization.
Absolutely, yeah. I always say it's the joy of getting everybody together in one room, isn't it? And people sharing and having that moment to do that. I experience the same also from training. And also something I'll just post there, we have a carbon literacy action day that happens every year around the COP conference. And again, people get really very, very engaged with that. Come to the training, get a specific certificate as well, and that's also something really to get your people engaged again within your organization. I would say, looking at the time, perhaps one more, maybe even two, but let's see how much we got to add for this question. So what kind of actions are people expected to commit? Maybe Miriam, do you want to go first for that one? And if also Ben and Steph, you have some great examples of what people have probably pledged during your training, that would be great to hear.
Yeah, so to become kind of certified carbon literate, you have to pledge 2 actions and also fill in like a little part to kind of that you've understood the learning as a whole. But the 2 actions are one individual action and 1 group action. So what we mean by individual and group is something that's within your kind of own remit to be able to kind of do, so the individual action, and then a group action, something that you can like work together with other people to kind of create. So a lot of times in those kind of group action ones as well, if you're doing it kind of in person, or kind of you have those breakout rooms where people can discuss those sessions. People might choose to come up with a group action together, but they just kind of need to kind of write their own action out. So that's what we mean by an individual and a group action. But some of the kind of criteria around that is it needs to be new. So it can't be, I don't know, I've got an EV car, I'm going to continue driving my EV car. That's kind of something that you're already doing. So it needs to be something new. So, you know, I'm going to stop driving my EV car one day a week and cycle to work instead. So that's kind of like reducing it. It's not carrying on with the same thing. So it then needs to be significant. So what we mean by that is actually something that's kind of going to make a difference, something that you can do within your own kind of remit of work, or your community, or your school, or, you know, university. So, you know, if you're, we would say kind of things like, we've seen some like stuff like, I'm going to use up all the ink in my pen. Although that's, you know, great, that's not necessarily significant enough for what we would expect for kind of a carbon literacy training. So we would expect something much larger, like, you know, within your own influence, maybe I'm going to reduce my meat intake once a week kind of thing, you know, meat-free Mondays or something like that. We would expect it to be a bit more significant. It needs to be relevant to who you are. So, you know, we would expect someone in the kind of senior leadership team to kind of do something with a lot more kind of, you know, something larger, because they actually have the power to maybe be able to make those changes. And then it needs to be carbon reducing. So it can be, you know, it needs to be significantly carbon reducing. So it can be, you know, good for the environment and everything else as well, but it does actually need to reduce carbon emissions, or, you know, equivalent. Yes, I don't know if Ben and Steph, you want to come in with any good pledges. I know, like you said, Ben, a lot of people kind of pledge that they'll bring carbon literacy to their own workplace, which is great. And it's great to get, you know, see people go on that journey. Like, they've done carbon literacy training, they come to us, then they create their own course and then train their own staff. So that's also kind of like one of those great kind of knowledge sharing actions as well that we like to see.
Yeah, another example. Sorry.
No, go,
Ben.
go. You go.
Yeah, I was thinking of the collective pledge. It's really nice when during the training people realize that the stakeholders they work with as part of their job is like, I don't know, their trade association, or like, yeah, other people in their industry, and they realize that, wow, maybe they can spark something, they can spark some ideas and start asking questions and work collectively. Because yeah, I think it's if you don't know about it already before the training, like, yeah, it's all about collaboration. Nobody can achieve net zero on their own. So if you can, and if people have the influence within their role to work like wider than their own organization, that's really where we can see often some really good collective pledges to reduce carbon emission within their industry. So yeah, that I don't have a specific example, but yeah, that's when we're like, yes, that's like we're talking big impact now. Yeah. Okay, I think it's probably, yeah, we're 2 minutes close to the end, so it's probably now a good time to close and to thank everyone who stayed until the end to this webinar. Hope you find it useful. There are plenty of resource that Christian has shared in the Q&A section, so have a look. And yeah, we will send, as Luc said earlier, we will share the slides and like a link to all the resources and so on. So please do not hesitate to reach out to both Carbon Literacy Project or Ecosurety if you have any question about carbon literacy and how you can roll this out in your organization. Thank you very much to Christian and Miriam to join us today, and to Ben as well for joining me on the Ecosurety side. And thank you again to the FDF team for hosting this webinar. I wish you a lovely afternoon. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.